Welcome to Wagstaff Wisdom and this session dedicated to the campaign which is #NoWrongPath. So today is 6th of August and in Scotland the students are receiving their exam results. And quite a few years ago, a company in Scotland came up with this marketing support of #NoWrongPath, and that was there for students to be able to lean into something and have that bit of that support structure to say, well, actually, your exam results have come in, but they might not be what you're looking for, and you might still feel a little bit lost. So at Wagstaff, we jumped on this. We might not be in Scotland, but we love the #NoWrongPath because for us working within recruitment and careers, we see a lot of people who their careers are not straightforward, they're squiggly, and people will go off into different directions. Every year we choose people to interview, and we may do blogs or interviews as we're doing today. I'm delighted that I will say that they have kindly said yes to this interview. I might have done a fair bit of persuading with Paul at a recent event, but I'm delighted to welcome Paul and Noah from Team BRIT. Hi Paul, hi Noah, thank you very much for joining us. I know your schedules are really, really busy, so I really, really do appreciate this. To share your journeys, basically, this is what we talked about, is we want to share the journey, but also within our the network that we're part of within engineering and manufacturing. I know there's a fair few petrol heads that will also be interested in Team BRIT and what Team BRIT's all about. So, without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to talk through and have a chat initially with Paul, and then we're going to come to Noah and we're going to hear their career stories. We're going to hear about how they work now together and what that involves. We've got some questions from some of my network who we normally do a LinkedIn Live, so they weren't able to do it live just because of the schedules. And then we're going to talk in more detail about Team BRIT, so that people who, I'm going to guess there's quite a few people that haven't heard of Team BRIT, so we're going to do that. So, #NoWrongPath. Paul, coming to you first. GCSEs or A-levels, what comes to mind on exam results day, and where were you, and which one do you want to pick, A-levels or GCSEs? And I know you did A-levels because I know a little bit about your story, so I'm dropping you a little bit in that one.
Well, so they were all, as I remember, fairly underwhelming. I don't think I'd ever been predicted to be top of sort of many classes. I did okay, but I didn't stand out. I was particularly average pretty much everywhere in academia. So I had no real shine and no real direction when I sort of finished either of them, I'm afraid.
Did that bother you at that time? Do you remember, or were you sort of quite relaxed about everything at that point?
I vaguely remember thinking that maybe I should have done better, or I wanted to have done better, but I think I was more bothered by the fact that I didn't know what on earth I wanted to do. I had this broad spectrum of kind of average GCSEs and nothing stood out. And by the end of school, I had a very kind of vague direction of where I wanted to go. My careers officer had come up with virtually nothing that excited me, and I had to just sort of default to what I enjoyed doing, which at the time was music.
Right.
And I then left school and I went and studied A-level music technology, music history, and I think photography, because I had to have 3. And that just kind of pushed me down a path of at least something, because I didn't have anything else that I thought, well, this is where I'm going to spend the next 30 years of my life.
So it was music.
Yeah, it was music.
I knew that bit either. So, okay. So then when you went to university, what did you study at university?
So by the time I got to the end of A-levels, it was the same story. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and now I had these music A-levels. And so by the end of sort of the last year of my college years, they were saying, well, you should go to university and study music. You're on this path now. And I kind of went, all right, fair enough. The path of least resistance was in front of me, and they said you need to play 5 instruments, go and learn 3 others, and then if you kind of pass that, you'll get into university on a music degree. So that's what I went and did.
Okay, so and just to clarify, so we'll just bring that in now. Paul is now part of Team BRIT and is a racing driver. So we are not a musician and we're not in a band. Are you in a band?
No. So long story short, I went to study music at Kingston University in London, and by the end of year 1, hated it. Didn't want to be around music, didn't like the people on the course, was struggling other things in my life, which kind of made it more complicated to kind of be up in London, and just didn't enjoy it. And I thought, what am I going to be at the end of this? Either a music teacher or in a band. And I didn't really want to do either of those things. So that fell on its face really quite quickly.
So after year 1 at uni, then what happens?
So I got on the phone to all of my friends that were at the universities who had all sort of left at the same time as me and had gone off to do engineering and kind of other things. And without any direction, I phoned them up and said, look, what's your university like? I don't like my university. I don't like my course. What is the uni like? What's the bar like? What's the nightlife like? What are the people like? And the best answer I got was a friend at UEA studying kind of mathematics, perhaps. And I thought, right, okay. I phoned UEA and I said, look, this is where I'm at. What can I do? And they said, well, what do you do apart from music? I said, well, kind of like engineering, quite like computers. I'm studying, music technology. And they said, well, we could get you on an engineering course. If you come along and do a foundation year, you could switch to engineering. And I sort of said, job done. Okay, I'll pack my bags here. And I literally packed everything I owned into the back of a Volkswagen Golf and drove up to UEA. I think I camped for the first few nights because they had no accommodation for me. So I found a campsite, and I just started going to this foundation year. And I just wanted to get as far away from the kind of bad decision that I've made. So I restarted, as it were, up at UEA.
That's so we're in year 1 at UEA, yeah?
Yeah, year 1 doing a foundation degree because they said, because I've only got a musical background, they didn't trust me to hop on an engineering degree. So they said, you've got to do a year of physics, chemistry, biology, maths, which is, it's only a year, I can get up to that. So I spent a year doing that, passed that, only just. My heart probably wasn't in it as much as I thought it would have been. Really enjoyed the other side of going to university, the sort of the socializing, the kind of making new friends, that kind of moving away from home. That's the bit I kind of really valued. And work was almost a ticket to that lifestyle. So I probably did just enough to get by, but not a lot more.
Okay, but it didn't stay there, did it? So I'm keen to. I can't remember the year it all changed because we didn't stay at UAE, did you?
No, so I did my foundation year and then did year 1 and year 2. And by that point, I'd moved in with 2 lovely ladies off of campus in a little house share. And there was a careers evening, and one of them said, I really want to go to this careers evening. I think I might want to join the army as a vet, as it turns out. She was doing a veterinary course up at UEA. Would you come and hold my hand? I don't want to go on my own. I think this is, pretty scary, and I'm not quite sure. So will you come along to this careers evening at the army? And I said, yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. And it was a real knife edge decision. I wanted to go to bed. I wanted to do something else. And in the end, I thought I should be a good housemate and go along. And I did. And had a lovely time, met some lovely people, heard all about what the army was like and what you could do and kind of who it was for. And the long story short is that she ended up not joining, and I ended up joining there and then. So that was history. Really.
How old were you then?
I would have been early 20s, I think, at that point. I can't remember off the top.
Wow. So within about 4 years, we've gone from musician to engineer to now being in the army.
Yeah. Yeah, there was and for the first time, things started to feel right. Up to that point, I had just been going through the motions of leaving home, discovering who I was, struggling with kind of all of that personality side of things, and the career was almost just a ticket into sort of finding who I was and kind of just getting by until that happened.
Wow. Thank you. I think that from there really is no wrong path, and it's why I love this campaign so much, because you can move that whole thing of you camping and number one, picking up the phone to other universities and saying, what else have you got? Brilliant. Yeah. And then camping because there's no accommodation. I mean, this really, there's some really good characteristics in there which showcase of let's get on and do. Brilliant. Thank you. Noah, let's come to you. Yours is a bit of a different story.
Yeah, just a bit.
Talk to me about your GCSEs.
I never sat them because I did them. Well, I was in the year when COVID closed all schools. Okay. So I just got my estimated grades as my final grades, which personally I think was a bit of a blessing in disguise for me. I was definitely more switched on in lessons than in the stress of taking exams.
Okay.
So it was all really, GCSE time was really up in the air for my year.
Okay, and I think this is now the appropriate time to sort of talk about a little bit about you guys coming together, because so at that point, Noah, what were your circumstances at that point with where you are within your journey now? You weren't with Team BRIT at that point, were you?
No, so GCSEs, I was 15 and then went into sixth form, started A-levels, and about a term into my first year of A-levels, I then had my accident on my motocross bike. And then after I missed the rest of that A-level year, and I went back to school the next year after trying my best to catch up in the summer, and then I finished A-levels that year.
Okay, so you got your A-level results as well?
Yes, yeah.
And how was that compared to GCSEs?
I much preferred A-levels. It was they're obviously harder and a bit more full on, but being able to focus on 3-4 subjects rather than 15 was a lot nicer.
And what 3 subjects did you do?
I did business studies, art studies, and film studies.
Okay, wow.
So a lot.
Did you want to go into TV?
Yeah, I really like cinema.
Did you?
Cinema, art, and business would have just a pretty solid, if I needed anything in that area.
Okay, so that's really interesting. Is this, because I want to talk about your sport, obviously, but have you chosen those away from sport?
As a backup, a bit.
I love that. Have you always thought about that you always needed a backup?
Yeah, especially because my parents have been really supportive with anything I really wanted to choose, but at the same time, they have wanted me to be sensible about all of it, because obviously we knew an accident like this could be a possibility with the sport I was doing, or just anything can go in a different direction with that. So having a backup and having A-levels, because me being a 15-year-old naive child, I wanted to leave school after GCSEs and just carry on with my dirt biking, but mum and dad were like, you should probably do A-levels, use that as backup, and they were right. Thank God I did.
Well, you've sort of got a different career now, but let's talk about that and talk about your experience. So you've always been into sport.
Yeah.
From your bio is from 5, but you got onto a bike, I believe. Tell us a little bit about the sport that you were involved in. Tell us obviously about what happened after your GCSEs and your accident.
Yeah, of course. So dad, put me on a motocross bike when I was 4. And I instantly took to it. I loved it. I mean, I grew up watching dad do it as well. And but at the time it was just kind of, a hobby and a bit of fun, to be honest. And around the time I was 15, I was starting to get, I was confident on the bike and wanting to push my ambitions a lot more on it, until it got to the point where I thought this could be a career for me. The sport was blowing up quite a lot. It was growing really fast. And my whole life I've always been desperate to do something that I love rather than something that, you know, obviously I don't. And I never wanted to be sat behind a desk or inside or anything. I had to be doing something physical because that's what kept me happy, like my whole life. So yeah, that was kind of the path I was going down, and it was all going, everything was lining up and the stars were aligning. I was still doing school, obviously, in the background, like I just explained. And then every single moment I could get out of school, I would be riding and practicing. And my plan was then to eventually finish school, go to the States and compete there.
And you were doing a little bit of competition at that point anyway, weren't you?
I was starting to ride with a team that compete. Yeah.
So just tell us about what happened.
Yeah, so COVID time, as school closed, GCSEs just kind of been and gone, and it was finally time for us to go back to school. And because I had probably a couple months off the bike, I was desperate to get back on. So the day I was supposed to go back to school, I said, "Oh, let me just go back in late, and I just want to ride just for a couple hours." My parents were actually reluctant, but I did get my way in the end, and I went back to the ramp. And on the first jump, I usually jump 75 foot, which is competition distance, and that's what I was used to and was fine with. But I thought, you know, to make things a bit safer, seeing as I haven't been on the bike for a while, I'll close the gap to about 50 foot, which is significantly shorter. It still sounds far, but when you look at the differences, it's a lot shorter. And I just went into autopilot and went a bit too far for that short of a jump and landed basically, I broke my back on the impact, and from then on was paralyzed from about my ribs down, which was it threw my world upside down.
So you're 15. Not gone back.
Just 16. Yeah.
Just 16. Not gone back. About to go back to school, and this all kicks off.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're in hospital, recovering?
Yes.
How long were you in hospital for?
I was in hospital for 21 weeks. And I moved around. I went straight to John Radcliffe Hospital to get surgery done on my back straight away to basically fuse my spine together. And then once I was medically fit, so able to eat, once I wasn't medically fit is what they told me. I can't remember a whole lot of it. Once I was medically fit, I was then transferred to Stoke Mandeville Hospital, which is a huge spinal unit. And then there I kind of had a little bit of physio, a little bit of rehab, and then I was kind of basically sent on my way. That was more to teach me how to live and be in a wheelchair. And that was, again, COVID had kicked back up again, and the hospitals were on lockdown, and I couldn't see my parents that often, and it was, we weren't allowed outside. It was pretty hellish, actually, in there.
I can't even comprehend what that must have been. And at this point, you then meet Paul. Is it at this point?
At this point, it's summer of 2021, and I get out of hospital, finish the summer, which is school holidays at this point, and then that next year, I start the last year of A-levels, and I tried my best to catch up over the summer with what I'd missed. And I just wanted to get on with it, because the last thing I wanted to do is drop a year and redo it all again. So I managed to do that and came away with results that I'm happy with. So, and then I left school, went, and then that's when
Where did you guys meet? Because then, you know, we're coming back to Paul with he's been off in the army, done a hell of a lot of other stuff, and which we'll come to. But you guys met. Where did you guys meet?
I remember we met at one of the team photo shoots for the class of 22. It would have been, I guess. I'd already been in the team a year at that point. Noah was one of the rookie drivers coming through, and yeah, we bumped all the drivers. It was our first time together with all the cars, big photo shoot, getting ready for the media for the year. And that's the first time we bumped into each other. And I think we really quickly clicked because we both love motorbikes. We had our injury within a week or so of each other, I think.
Yeah.
And we've got the same birthday. So there was like every time. I don't know how we discovered all this on day one, because there was a lot going on that day. But yeah, we sort of clicked at that point.
So let's come back to you, Paul, because we left you. You were going off into the army.
Yeah.
So you had a period of time in the army then.
Yeah.
Just bring us up to date to when you met what happened with your career then, and when you to the point when you met Noah.
Yeah, sure. So really enjoyed army life, and as far as I was concerned, I'd found my career at that point. I'd applied to go up to Sandhurst, and I was doing sort of all the things you have to go through to get to that. And I think it was a few months before I was due to start on that course. I think my CEO at the time said, "Oh, there's a diving exped out in Egypt. Do you want to go on it and go survey some ships and whatever?" And I love diving. I love skydiving and scuba diving. They were my two sports in the army. So I said, yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. I'd love to go on that. Went on the trip, and I'd done loads of diving before, but on this particular trip, on one particular dive, ended up getting a really heavy type 2 decompression illness, so the bends, and went from being on a really nice relaxed dive to coming up to pretty much being a vegetable. And the bend had caused the bubbles to burst all up at the back of my spine, so it caused brain injury in the back. And it pretty much within half an hour stopped me from walking and talking, and that was it. So that ended my army career kind of there and then, and started 2 years of heavy physio to learn to walk and talk again, and then 3 or 4 years after that, sort of perfect it back to where I've got to now. And so that just stopped that completely, and I thought, I'm going to have to reinvent myself again, because the army was not an option anymore. So I started a small business, really enjoyed that, started motorcycle racing to try and replace the adrenaline kind of lifestyle of the armed forces, because it's very hard to go from having a really kind of busy career to being in physio like every single day. And I'd really enjoyed motorbiking, and so as I got better, I started to pick up biking, got into bike racing, got good at that, started competing, got good at that, so started teaching. And sort of motorcycles and running my own business became kind of my new focus in life, up until the day I ride out with my partner, not even racing. I had a bit of a disagreement with a Ford Transit, and came away with it without my right leg. And so that was kind of, it was 1 minute I had a right leg, and the next minute I didn't have a right leg. And that was about a week away from when Noah was busy doing his jump. I was being an idiot and losing my leg somewhere over in Wales. So, and again, same sort of thing. It was life changing, kind of in an instant. And right, okay, here we go. This has happened, and eventually, I got in touch with Team BRIT because I was desperate to do some sort of motorsport. The surgeon said motorcycling was out. There was no real sense in getting back on a bike with this kind of new stunt that was very delicate. So I found Team BRIT through the army. Someone had heard of them, wrote to them and said, "Can I come and get involved?" And they said, "As soon as you're ready, come along, get in a car, and we'll have a look at you." So that was that.
Wow. I have no words for the things that you've been through. My goodness, the pair of you.
Yeah, we're not the luckiest, are we now?
It depends how you look at it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's not very often I'm lost for words, but I am literally lost for words at what you two have gone through. So let's move on to tell me about Team BRIT. Tell people listening, what is Team BRIT?
Wow. Noah, do you want to go for that, or shall I answer that one?
You're really good at, I can do it, but you are very good at explaining everything.
Okay. So Team BRIT started 7-8 years ago as a go-kart team. And BRIT stood for British Racing into Troops. And the idea was to take people coming back from conflict who were injured veterans, to get them into a form of motorsport that they could compete at, to replace the buzz that you'd get from military life. Just as I took up motorcycle racing, This was to get injured guys into go-karting, and the difference was this go-karting team had controls on the steering wheel that let you accelerate and brake with your hands. So people who were wheelchairs, who had amputations, who couldn't use their legs to use pedals, could suddenly go racing. And it was the perfect blend of military service and adaptive motorsport. And it very quickly grew year on year until they got to the point and said, look, why can't we do this in actual cars? Go-karting is great, but if we can do it in this, why can't we do that? So the team principal at the time said, you're absolutely right, let's get that done. So they got a first kind of fun cup car and did really, really well at that. They developed the technology to drive with your hands. So on all of the cars that we have an accelerator paddle on the right and a brake on the left. We can gear up and gear down with shifters in the middle. And the team has grown from that first, I think it was a Volkswagen Beetle Fun Cup car that we competed in back then, has grown all the way up to competing in British GT, McLaren Trophy. We've got a pair of McLaren 570S GT4s, a BMW M240i that Noah drives, a 1 Series BMW that our junior drivers drive, and a couple of academy cars. We compete in British and European levels at GT4 level, which is a very competitive level. We won the championship year before last. We're constantly winning races. It's an amazing team. It's come a long way in a very short time. And the ultimate goal is to be the first ever team to race at Le Mans. It's never been done before. And so we're on a trajectory now, back from our humble roots as a go-karting team, to go and compete at the highest level of endurance racing.
Wow. Have you got the spark back now, Paul? Then is that adrenaline being met now? That need for that adrenaline being met?
Yeah. So when Noah said, actually, it depends how you look at it. I always wanted to be a racing driver as a kid, and it was right. When kids say I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a racing driver. Lots of kids say it, and I was one of them. But I knew in my heart it would never happen. So when I managed to get into motorcycle racing, I was like, wow, I've obviously not going to make a racing driver, but this is as close as I'm going to bloody get, and it's really amazing that I've managed to get into this. So when I managed to convert that into car racing through the accident I had and getting onto the Team BRIT, that was my ticket to the thing I'd always wanted to do. I had no idea that was the journey I was going to take to get there, but it all came true, and it all in a really weird way it all worked out. It's
great. No wrong path.
Yeah,
no wrong path.
It's a really weird path, and I think I took the weird path route. But I wouldn't change it for all the tea in China. I've ended up right where I wanted to be. That's
really interesting. But I have heard that Noah might be a bit quicker than you.
Noah, I should blooming hope so. I've told him everything I know. So if he's not quicker, then it's going on.
I was going to say you're enjoying yourself, but Noah, I think you're exceeding every level, aren't you? At the moment, it's sort of meeting what you want.
God, I feel like every single time I'm at the track, there are still mountains of things I need to improve on and learn. But that's what I absolutely love about sports like this, and which is what drove me to do sports like that before, is being not great at it and getting to the absolute best level I possibly can. And this is motorsport. It has been the most humbling sport I've ever done. It's so difficult, and I absolutely love that, because I feel miles away from where I really want to be, but that just gives me all the more to push for.
Wow. Well, from my point of view, since I met you guys, whatever it was, 5 weeks ago, and every time we've spoken, the thing that comes across for me is you guys have just got so much positive energy. You're always smiling. You're always like just going, you're a positive. Positive. I'm going to go cheeky as well, because I'm going to get a feeling that you two get up to some real mischief, right? Yeah. So it was a pleasure to meet you then. It's a pleasure to chat through with you now, and thank you so much for sharing your journey. It links in quite nicely to, we asked people within our network for for a few questions that they would like to ask you, and I think this links in quite nicely. So Lee Howarth, who is involved in manufacturing and engineering, one of his questions was, where do you find and draw your inspiration to overcome daily challenges? No, I'm going to come to you on that, and I'm going to underpin it with a different question. Do you see daily challenges, or what's your outlook every day when you get up? Do you see challenges, and if you do, how do you overcome them, or what's your mindset every day?
Well, actually, yeah, like what I was just saying, my whole life I've almost searched for challenges, maybe not as nuts as the ones I've got now, but that's always given me a drive to get up and get on with things, and I enjoy challenges. So having this incredible challenge of being introduced to a completely new life, I see it in a way of something to overcome and not let beat me, rather than something that has changed my life, possibly for the worse. But I think my outlook on things that are tough is just do it as well as you possibly can. So something like this, I can't let really affect me in a negative way. Otherwise, it's just an awfully slippery slope from there.
Yeah. Paul?
Yeah,
where do you sort of draw your inspiration?
Noah's definitely hit it on the head there, and also being part of this team.
I was going to say that too. Yeah.
No matter what challenges you think you have, the driver's
There's always someone else.
There's always there's always another challenge or a different challenge, and from that point of view, being here makes it very humbling, and it puts perspectives on whatever challenge you might be going through, because there might be nothing compared to the man or lady next to you. But I always found that the skill in life is not identifying the challenges as positive or negative, but I think if you've got the skill to find the positive in any situation, because there's always a positive in situation. Lost a leg, ended up being a racing driver. That's definitely a positive rather than anything else. They let you park anywhere. You've got double the amount of socks that you need in your life. There's always the skill is finding that positive, and once you latch onto that, everything else becomes easier, because there is always one if you know how to look for it.
I love that. So the other questions, and I think we might have covered this one, but let's just make sure that we do ask this. So this is from Sam Bainham, who runs a manufacturing and engineering organisation. What did you think you'd end up doing after school? Well, I think, Paul, I don't know, Paul. Paul hasn't got a clue, but we've got a list this long now for Paul, haven't we? We know that he wanted to be a racing driver, but he didn't think he could, but he's become one. He thought he might be a musician.
Yeah, there was lots of things. I remember seeing my careers advisor, and there was like an 8-page form with tick boxes, and it said, do you strongly agree that you're sporty, or less agree, or average agree? And it had hundreds of questions all like this, and it profiled you. And at the end of it, it said I wanted to be an archaeologist or something. And I did like Indiana Jones films, and I did go and have an interview at a university for archaeology, but it was so far off the mark. And I sort of left school thinking, God, even they don't know what I want to do, and I've done all this surveying. So yeah, it was a thoroughly confusing time. And like I said, I think just doing something until you find, either through accident or through kind of divine intervention, what you want to do. Just grab something that you can do it as well as you can, make mates, make contacts, go out in the world, find sports, and just have a lovely time. And eventually you'll fall into your groove. I know I did, and I know most of my friends who felt the same have ended up doing things that they love, either through completely wrong paths like mine, or planned paths like they had. But eventually, if you just keep going, you will get there.
Yeah, it's very much, I think, about this attitude and approach, and like we keep saying, there isn't any wrong path. Now, was there anything else that you wanted, when you were at school? Was there anything else that sort of sparked a bit of, I might want to do that, rather than doing the racing?
Yeah, well, like I briefly touched on earlier, film and art has been a huge interest for forever, really. And I really would have loved to go into something creative with either of those things. Specifically, I don't know, because there's so many different routes down there, but I've always had a passion for that film, and I was at my school on an art scholarship, and it was kind of something that a talent that I've had since a really young age, and it's something I don't think I've wanted to really throw away, because I feel like I would regret it in the future if I didn't do something with that. So yeah, that was it. But
watch this space. I have a feeling we've got to watch this space on what Noah's career is going to be. This multiple.
He is
multiple stuff.
really talented. Some of his work is absolutely it's amazing. You need to go and check it out.
Okay, you just said we need to go and check it out. Do you have an Instagram? This is new to me. I'm like, what have you got?
I've got a few things that are not under wraps, but haven't been put on anywhere on the internet yet, because it's a whole series that I'm about to print and sell. Hopefully sell. That's very confidently, but there's nothing actually quite on the internet yet.
Okay, we will keep an eye out for your name, and Paul, I expect you to share it when it all becomes live. Noah, then, I think Paul alluded to this one, but Julie Popperton, who is the Director of Careers Education for one of the MAPs in Staffordshire, said, what was the careers advice like for you at school? I think Paul's alluded, so we'll come back to Paul in a minute, but Noah, what was yours?
I vaguely remember going through the process that Paul just spoke about, filling those forms, and they bring back what you said, but that was all really vague to me, and I actually cannot remember for the life of me what they said, but I do remember thinking that's not right.
Memorable then.
And yeah,
memorable exactly. For the wrong reasons.
Yeah, exactly. But on the other hand, the school was quite supportive with different routes. So having film studies, for example, as a A-level, and there were a lot of other things similar to that. So I feel like there was always support. It wasn't really the idea of, go off and be a lawyer or a bank, whatever, I don't know. But I think it was quite out of the ordinary for me to kind of have motocross on my mind rather than all these other things, because when it came around to applying to unis, I didn't want to go to uni, and I was in quite a weird area, like limbo zone, because I did fly a bit under the radar for that reason. So yeah. It was all a bit vague and weird for me.
Yeah. I think a set of circumstances, I think, to take a positive from what you've said, I think it's nice to hear that the support was there. So you're potentially quite a unique case of what people. So as long as there was the supportiveness there, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, the school gave me time off school to practice riding my bike. So
oh wow, okay, yeah,
they were very good with that, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think it's looking at how we support people with careers, not by a traditional questionnaire.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some questionnaires can work, but some can't. So what's next for you two? Let's talk about where you are next, and I'm keen to know what the timeline is for me booking my weekend in Le Mans of when I come and watch you guys. So what's next? And also, people that are watching this are interested in motorsport, and certainly going to be interested in your career journeys, but also what the team are doing. How can people get involved? Paul, I'll come to you. I could tell Noah was going, go to Paul.
Oh no, well, last time I was asked this question, and at Linstone Manor, and I think I just said Instagram and something else, and I think the whole room laughed, because I think that shows.
In fairness, Noah, it was a mature audience that might not have been on Instagram. Just a different audience, but we will go Instagram, because I follow you on Instagram, I follow you on the socials, but let's go this weekend, Donington Park.
Exactly.
You're there. What's this weekend, first of all? Tell us a little bit about what happens on Saturday. So that's the 10th of August. People have watched it after this. You've missed out.
Well, Saturday is Paul. So Paul, you want to?
Okay.
Yeah. So Saturday, the McLaren will be out, the 570S, with myself and my teammate Aaron Morgan. We were joined up this year. He's a paraplegic, lovely guy, really good racer as well. So we'll be taking on Donington. There is a live stream and it will be on the website. So if you want to watch and sort of follow it online, you can go to teambrit.co.uk. If you go to the fan zone, then there'll be live links to the races. You can watch all online the races that happen. So we have the race on Saturday, and then the day after, we go to the 2 BMWs, the 1 Series, driven by Dom and Caleb, and they're driving the Brit Car Trophy in Class D, I think, and then in Class C is Noah and Asher in the BMW M240 Series. Wrong class. And they will compete in the same race on the Sunday. So there's a team race both days in 2 different championships.
Busy weekend.
Yeah.
I think on the 14th of September we've got a round back at Snetterton, and that for us is the last round of this season. Then we'll convert over. We do a lot of outreach work in between seasons, so we try and get involved with sort of disabled kids that are looking for inspiration for careers and things, whether it be in motorsport or something else. We get them along to HQ and get them along to races, and we do away events and home events. So there's lots of that kind of work. And then it's just getting ready for the next season and try and work out what championships will be and what cars will be in. And it's like football time where drivers try and work out what they're going to be in and what sponsors they've got to take forwards, and what 2025 looks like.
So questions for you. HQ, you are based where?
We're based. We just moved. We were at Dunsfold and we've just moved down to Worthing in East Sussex, I think we are. I'm here in the building. I'm not quite sure which county I'm in. I'm from Hampshire, so I'm just down the road. It's an amazing facility, and we can host kind of guests here and get people along and try and do some really cool outreach work as well.
Fabulous. Timeline for Le Mans?
That's a flexible one. We're probably 1 or 2 cars away from it at the moment. We've just taken the McLarens in the last couple of years, so we're still bedding those in and getting used to those. Watch this space. It's no one's trodden this path before, so it's completely new territory for everyone. So we're kind of making it up as we're going along. But considering we were running go-karts 7 years ago, we're doing pretty well.
I think you're doing very well. You're really doing very well. How can people get involved then? If obviously people want to come and watch, they can follow you on the socials. If there's businesses and organisations that think, we want to get behind this team and sponsorship, how does that work? Who should people reach out to?
So you can reach out to anyone from the website. So our commercial director and team principal, Mike Scudamore's details are on there. He's a really great contact to reach out to. You can come along to any of the races, ping us an email to let us know that you're coming down, and we'll obviously get you into the garage and show you the cars and try and show you a nice time. If people want to get involved with the team as sponsors, again, get in touch with us and have a conversation about what it is that you need, and how we can facilitate that as a team, because it's we build partnerships with companies to have a two-way relationship. So we make sure we deliver value for you as well as value for us. But the main thing is just get in touch and come down and see us. We're a very friendly bunch. We're probably the most friendly, diverse race team there's ever been.
You are certainly, I can vouch for that firsthand. Very welcoming, very happy, and I am going to put cheeky in there as well, because I'm sure you see, that's the response I get.
Always starts it. It's never.
Always starts it. Not sure, if I'm honest. I'm thinking Paul might be as well, and Paul might be as well. I would just like to say thank you very much. The whole thing for me is, and working in careers for the past 30 years, is seeing people who are flipping miserable in their jobs. And I see a lot of people that do that. I see a lot of people who are lost, and I see a lot of people who aim for something, get there, and are miserable. And I think what the thing for me that I take away meeting you guys is the way your outlook to your world, life, everything that gets thrown at you. Obviously, I haven't seen you in depth going through all of the challenges that you've gone through, but you out there and just suck it up. Let's get on with it. We can find a great outcome from this, and let's keep going. And I think that's a really admirable quality from both of you. So yeah, thank you very much. And I am going to end by stealing somebody's quote. I don't know if you remember this, but when you spoke at the event at Limpson Manor, afterwards Bubbles Horsley came on, and he was the next person to be interviewed. And he said, in a world where hope is in short supply, it's a privilege to listen to Paul and Noah. And for me, he summed it up absolutely spot on. So I have nicked it because it was so good. And for the people who know motorsport will know who Bubbles Horsley is, and those of you can Google him. But you're inspiring. You're a pleasure to be around. You certainly make me smile every time I speak to both of you, and I look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Yes, we'll give you the guided tour.
Up at Donington, so I will see you guys there. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm sure everybody will enjoy listening to your story, and we welcome anybody to get in touch with Team BRIT. Follow them on all of their socials and reach out if you want any more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ruth.